one, selection statements. Easiest way to see these things is just to see some examples. So let's start with a very super simple if-else statement. So here it is. I'm saying if the number 5 is equal to the number 6, then print yes to the screen, else print no. So what's happening here is either I'm going to get yes or I'm going to get no. When this program is run, it will never do both. It is one or the other. So it either takes the path of the if statement or the path of the else statement. So we all know that 5 does not equal 6. So we expect that it is going to take the else path, meaning this is not true. So we take the else path and it's going to print no. And I go ahead and run that, and yes, it says no. If I just go ahead and change this just to prove what I'm sure you already know, if I change this to 5 equals 5, now instead of taking the no path, it's going to take the yes path, and you can see that it does. So that is probably the simplest if-else statement you will ever see. So there it is. So let's do something a little more complicated. You can have multiple if-else statements in a row. And by this, I mean you could split 3 or 4 ways in your program instead of just one. You know, if 1 do this, if 2 do that, if 3 do that, if 4 do this. So you can your program doesn't need to just be one or the other. It could be one or the other or the other. So here's an example where I am using multiple if statements. And this is another one of those shorthands that you see in Python quite a bit. I have an if statement, and then I have what's called elif. All that is a mash together of else and if, and then at the end, again, I have my else. So when this program's run, it is going to take one of 3 paths. So it will either take the if path and print live long and prosper. It will take the elif path, printing may the force be with you, or it will take the else path and print that as illogical. And the way this program's working is just asking the user to say Star Trek or Star Wars, and depending on their response, one of the paths is chosen. The item I want to note here, a way to cleanse user input, it's not fantastic, but it is a way that helps a little bit, is I can do a .lower method on the variable that is holding my user input, and it will take and move everything in that variable to lowercase. So I don't have to worry about whether they did Star Trek with a capital S or with a lowercase s. I'm just forcing it to be lower when I do my comparison. So I can always have lowercase in my comparison operator. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this. And it is asking me Star Trek or Star Wars. I'll type Star Wars. And then when I hit enter, it is going to go down the path where user choice.lower equals Star Wars. And it's going to print may the fourth be with you. Pretty straightforward. If I run the program again, this time I put Star Trek, hit enter, it says live long and prosper. Perhaps I'm somebody else and I like Spaceballs. That will not fit either of those paths, so it's going to go down the else path and just print that as illogical. So I've run my program 3 times. I've hit all 3 paths. If you're thinking in terms of unit tests, you would have to make sure that your unit tests hit at least each one of those scenarios once to make sure it works as you expect. Good unit test setup here would also test the person using uppercase letters and the person using lowercase letters to make sure that the .lower part of this is working. Continuing on, here's another example, just so you can see another example. This is just taking a user input saying, give me a color, and then depending on what color the person inputs into the screen, it tells them whether their color is a primary color, a secondary color, or a tertiary color. I am not a color expert. I just went and Googled it, and I found a site here, usability.gov, et cetera, et cetera. So if you want to go look at the source of this information, it's right there. So maybe this isn't even accurate, I don't know. But I just needed something to show, again, that splitting path. This time I have an if, an elif, another elif, and an else. So there are 4 different paths involved here, and only one of those will run depending on what the user inputs onto the screen. So I hit run the program, and it's asking me to enter a color. I enter red, and it says your color red is a primary color. One of the newer things here, here's that .lower again, one of the newer things here is I'm saying if in. Now we talked about in last week, stating it's a comparison operator. It's saying is it there or not, and it will return true or false depending whether it's in there or not. So this is how I can check three things very easily whether they fit here. So I can say if it's in this list. And list contains red, yellow, and blue, then it goes down that path. So I don't have to put like if user underscore color dot lower equals red, or user color dot lower equals yellow, or user color lower dot lower equals blue. I can just do it in this much more shorthand way, much cleaner to read, much easier to understand. So I'm gonna just run it again, just to show each one of the paths. This time I'll put in green, hit enter, and it says your color green is a secondary color. And then one more time, well, two more times, I guess, to run every path. If I do red, orange, because that's what I did this time, your color red, orange is a tertiary color. And then one more time, I'm just going to type something that doesn't fit anything. And then you see I don't recognize your color choice. So I've hit all of the different possible paths in my code. And kind of at least exercised each one to make sure it's doing what I expect it to. And you can see that it splits each one depending on what I type into the screen. So that's everything in topic 1. Topic 2 is relational and logical operators. I don't have anything to show here. This was actually done in the demonstration from last week, but there is some information in Blackboard if you want to have a look there under topic 2 that shows some tables and some information about those operators. So I do encourage you to go have a look and make sure that you're comfortable with that. There's also an assignment in module 2, in topic 2 that you'll need to do, so make sure that you get that completed about operators.